Washington Pod presents EARL Nightingale.
Thinking is the highest function of the human being. We're apparently the only creatures on planet Earth that can do that. That's our bag, and that's what we're here to do. We're here to think and solve problems. Remember when Mr. Watson of IBM had those little signs everywhere? One-word signs, just the word think. People used to make fun of that and put up signs with the word think misspelled. Take a look at the numbers on IBM today. Last time I looked, sales were reaching about 50 billion. Apparently a lot of people there took Mr. Watson's signs seriously. Thinking made all that possible. When you sit down and begin to think about a problem, you're engaging in the highest function of which any known living creature on the planet can perform. It's better than a triple-back somersault off the 6-meter board or trying to juggle 2 skunks and a bobcat. There's nothing you can do that's better for you to do than think. And yet it's the very last thing the majority of people will do. They'll ask their neighbors for advice, the people at work, the people sitting next to them on the subway or downtown bus or airplane. They'll even seek the counsel of their brothers-in-law before they will, quietly and alone, with pad and pencil, sit down and think about the problem that confronts them. I keep yellow legal pads around. I have a stack of them in my study, in my office, and in my briefcase. At the top of the page, write out the problem. The problem represents a trip you want to take. You want to get from where you are to the solution of that problem. So first, define the problem. A problem defined is half solved, as the saying has it, and it's true. Just seeing the problem spelled out helps to clarify it. Then we can start writing down possible solutions, and we can put down the pencil or pen and stare off into space as we turn the problem over and over in our mind like a chicken on a rotisserie, exposing every part of it to the radiance of our mind and the great powers to which the mind has recourse. Over and over we turn it, and we write down every possible thing we can think of that might lead to its solution, no matter how silly it might appear to others who will never see it. We keep this to ourselves, and we keep looking for answers. Then we ask, are there any books on this subject that might be helpful? Surely other people have had this same problem before. Let's see what they did about it. Are there experts we can contact on the subject? Now that's the sort of counsel we want. And if we think it's a good idea, let's talk it over with someone whose ideas we respect and upon whom we can count for serious help on the matter. And as we crank our rotisserie and consider the problem, we keep our attitude positive about it. We look upon the problem as a challenge, something to solve and overcome, not as something that will continue to block us. We know there's an answer. What is it? And one fine day, as we're taking a stroll or a shower or driving the car or even sleeping, almost always at our leisure, the solution to our problem will appear. It will appear with all the lovely clarity of an elk on the far bank of a mountain lake. And when it does, we write it down, and we continue to write about it. And when it's as clearly defined as we can make it, we try to push farther and see if there are more good solutions lurking just behind it. Sometimes the first answer is a kind of teaser, and there are better ideas further on. So let's push on, writing down whatever else comes to us, and we've solved the problem for the time being. When we've done that, we've accomplished what we were designed to do. We have solved a problem. Of course, there are 2 kinds of problems. There are convergent problems, and there are divergent problems. Convergent problems are those which, as the word implies, converge. That is, 2 or more factors can be brought together from different directions which, when brought to an intersection, solve the problem. Building a house is such a problem, and when all the parts are in place, the house is complete. The problem has been successfully solved. All physical problems, or perhaps I should say mechanical problems, are ultimately convergent. Divergent problems are those which deal with other human beings. How to educate people is a divergent problem because what will work for one person won't necessarily work for another. Living successfully in marriage is a divergent problem, and one that must be solved on a daily basis. Each day we begin all over again and solve the problems of that day. And even mechanical problems, when solved, are very temporary because of the factor of change. The changes in transportation are a good example, or the changes in communication. What solves the problem today will not necessarily provide the solution a year or two from now or 3 years from now. High-tech products are now on an order of change measured by 3 years. In 3 years, the new product we're using will be improved upon sufficiently to bring up the question of replacement. Each time we solve a problem, we increase our capacity to solve the next one, as well as our attitude toward problems in general. Another anguished cry we hear coming from the mouths of the uninformed goes, "Hey, that's not easy." Or in the case of people even worse off, "Hey, that ain't easy. What's all this business about easy?" It's a factor of affluence, of course. The better off we become, the more we tend to slack off the lines. When people are pampered by a rich system such as ours, when everyone has the equivalent of about 200 servants working for him, to say nothing of the horsepower at his command, there's a tendency to do less and less, and what is done tends to be fairly easy. About those 200 servants, that's what the experts tell us our modern age provides us with in the way of running water, hot water, electricity, automatic this, automatic that, modern stoves, refrigerators, central heating, radio, television, power lawnmowers. The horses, of course, are under the hoods of our cars. All of it, when compared to what our forefathers had to do for themselves in the wilderness, amounts to having about 200 servants. But it's much better than even 200 servants could have provided. So we start with that. Before we do any serious thinking at all, we have all that working for us. All we need concern ourselves with is the question, where do we go from here? Or perhaps two questions. Where do I want to go, and how do I want to get there? So get the yellow pad, lined is best, and go to work with your rotisserie. You are at this moment the sum total of your thoughts to this point. How do you feel about that? Does it feel good? Does it fill you with a glow of satisfaction? Then you've been doing fine, and have only to continue the process. If you're not happy with yourself at this stage, perhaps it's time for a change. On that yellow pad, write down the things you want. Don't worry about the order or the things themselves. Just write them down as they come to you. Big things, little things, conditions, things like income or a certain sum you'd like to have working for you. Write down everything you want. This is your personal list, and no one else has to see it. After you've listed everything you want, and chances are the list will be shorter than you would have believed before tackling it, after you've got everything listed, number the items in the order of their importance to you, or because of the way in which you want to achieve them. Put them in the proper order on another sheet, and toss the first sheet away. Now you might think, but isn't that rather selfish, writing down the things I want? What good will that do the rest of the human race? You will do more good for the rest of the human race enthusiastically going full bore after the things you want than in any other way, because the only way you can get the things you want is by providing service to others, and the more intense and enthusiastic you are about it, the better will be your service. It's the way the free market, private enterprise American system works. You'll do best that which you most want to do in the pursuit of your personal goals. In so doing, you will provide the maximum service to those you need to help you. That's how it works at IBM, or with the man shining shoes in the basement barber shop at the Cornhusker Hotel in Lincoln, Nebraska. And that's a great hotel, incidentally. That's what's so hard to augur into the heads of the intellectuals who talk about a better distribution of income. There's certainly no secret about it. We do what we need to do to meet our serious needs and wants, and then we usually stop. From the hobo to the mailman to Mr. Lee Iacocca at the Chrysler Corporation, that's the way it works. So go buy the yellow legal pads, a few good pens, and find a quiet spot and go to work, unless you've already got all of this taken care of and you're sailing along on course. If that's the case, you already know about all of this and how wonderfully it works. It's sure a lot of fun when you know how. You see, we become what we think about.